Most people wake up every morning already defeated before their feet even touch the floor. They check their phone and someone's opinion ruins their mood. They drink their coffee and remember yesterday's argument. They step outside and suddenly everyone else's energy becomes their problem. They move through the day as sponges for other people's chaos, puppets whose strings are held by strangers. Carl Jung discovered something about the human psyche that most people will live their entire lives without understanding. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand it, you become untouchable, not because the world changes, but because you do. Here is what is really happening. Every time someone affects you, every time you feel that knot in your stomach, that anger rising, that sadness creeping in, it is not them doing it to you. It is you doing it to yourself. Jung called this participation mystique, the unconscious identification with external objects and people. You think you are separate from the world, but you are not. You are psychologically merged with it, bleeding into everything and everyone around you. That is why a stranger's bad mood can ruin your day. That is why someone's opinion can keep you up at night. That is why you carry other people's emotions as if they were your own. The brutal truth Jung understood is this: you are not your reactions. You are not your emotions. You are not even your thoughts. You are the consciousness behind all of it, the observer, the witness, the one who remains when everything else falls away. The moment you truly realize that you are not what happens to you, but how you relate to what happens to you, everything shifts. The spell breaks. When someone insults you, where does the pain actually exist? Not in their words. Those are only sound waves vibrating through air. The pain lives in your interpretation, in the meaning you give those sounds, in the story you tell yourself about what they say about you. That story was written long before this moment, in childhood, in past experiences, in the wounds that have not yet healed. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. When you let others affect you, you are not reacting to them. You are reacting to your own unconscious material." Picture two people sitting in the same traffic. One is furious, pounding the steering wheel, cursing the world. The other is calm, maybe even grateful for a moment of stillness. Same delay, same external situation, completely different internal experience. Why? One is identified with the situation and believes the traffic is happening to them personally. The other has created space between themselves and the experience. They know that traffic just is, neither good nor bad. This is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole, becoming truly yourself. Not the self that reacts to everything, needs constant validation, or bleeds into every situation, but the self that stands complete, sovereign, and less shaken by the storms of life. Becoming untouchable is not about becoming cold, or building walls, or stopping caring. It is about recognizing that everything you think is affecting you, is actually revealing you. When someone triggers you, they are showing you where you are still not free. When a situation disturbs your peace, it points to where you are still attached. When an opinion matters too much, it reveals where you are still seeking external validation. These are not attacks. They are invitations to look deeper, to heal what is unhealed, to integrate what has been rejected, and to become conscious of what has been unconscious. Most people live in a kind of psychological slavery, enslaved to their reactions, to other people's opinions, to external circumstances. They call it normal. They think this is simply how life is. It is not. It is a choice, usually an unconscious one. The moment you make it conscious, the moment you realize you have been giving your power away, you can choose differently. The world is neutral. It has no inherent meaning or built-in significance. It simply is. Meaning comes from you. The emotional charge is your contribution. Every experience passes through your perceptual filters, your beliefs, your past, your unconscious material, and comes out colored by you. So when you say someone made you angry, you are not telling the full truth. When you say a situation stressed you out, you are avoiding responsibility. Nobody can make you feel anything without your participation. Jung was not naive. He knew real dangers exist, but he also understood that the vast majority of what disturbs us is not physical threat. It is psychological projection. We are no longer running from tigers. We are running from opinions. We are not fighting for survival. We are fighting for validation and protecting our egos. And the ego is where most of the unnecessary suffering lives. The ego takes everything personally and interprets everything through the lens of, how does this affect my image, my status, my comfort? You are not your ego. You are the totality of your psyche, conscious and unconscious, personal and collective. When you begin to identify with this larger self, rather than only the small ego, the things that once devastated you become less significant. Opinions that once mattered become background noise. Situations that once controlled you become simply experiences passing through. This larger self is already whole and complete. It is not something you need to create. It is something you need to uncover. Uncovering it requires courage. It means facing the shadow, the parts of yourself you have rejected and pushed into unconsciousness. It means admitting that what triggers you most in others is often what you refuse to see in yourself. It means taking radical responsibility for your inner life. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Most people do not want that understanding. They prefer the comfort of blame and the role of victim. But if you are still reading, some part of you already knows there is another way. Some part of you is ready to reclaim your power, not through force, but through consciousness. When you begin creating space between yourself and your reactions, people will test you. Unconsciously, they will push harder because your non-reactivity disturbs them. It mirrors their own lack of control. If you stay steady, something shifts. They either rise to meet you or they fall away. Both outcomes are useful. You cannot save anyone or force anyone to become conscious. All you can do is work on yourself. In becoming more integrated, you become a living invitation for others, simply by being. The paradox is clear. The more you let go of needing to control how others respond to you, the more influential you become. The less you chase external validation, the more internally solid you feel. The less you pursue peace as something outside yourself, the more peaceful you become. It is less about adding and more about subtracting, remembering who you were beneath the conditioning and the automatic reactions. You are already the unchanging awareness in which thoughts, emotions, and circumstances arise and pass. The only reason you do not feel untouchable is that you have identified with what changes. Remember what remains, and the unnecessary suffering begins to fall away. This is not a destination. It is a lifelong practice of becoming more conscious, more present to what is actually happening, rather than the stories you tell about it. Every trigger is a new chance to choose differently. Every reaction is an invitation to pause and ask, is this really about them, or is this about me? Once you start taking responsibility for your inner state, everything changes. You stop waiting for the world to be different and start being different in the world. You stop needing others to change and start embodying the change yourself. You learn to stay centered while moving through the world, to be the calm eye of the storm, rather than the swirling chaos around it. This is not emotional suppression or spiritual bypassing. It is conscious choice, moment by moment. You will forget and fall back into old patterns. That is human. But now you will recognize it as optional, and you will have a way back to center. You are not a victim of the world. You are a participant in it. And you get to choose how you participate, unconsciously or consciously, reactive or steady, affected or increasingly free. The choice has always been yours.